1101 Chapter Preliminary Outsider. You can search in Baidu AI-made aircraft carrier in the Ming dynasty. Find the latest chapter. Antarctica. A 17,000 of the advance team, after a difficult journey, and finally arrived at the South Pole, saw the door of time and space. The gate of time and space is not big, about 6 meters wide and 10 meters high. It can accommodate tanks, but gunboats and warships cannot enter. The 2nd Regiment camped. The 3rd Regiment was on guard, regiment was ready, and the 112th Company entered. Liu Han III issued a variety of command in the cold. Subsequently, the soldiers of the 2nd Regiment began to pitch tents. Before detecting the specific situation of the alien world, they didn't know whether the alien world was suitable for human survival, and they must be prepared to stay in the Antarctic for a long time. Santuan was loaded with bullets and the muzzle opened. He had uncertain, 112 even after entering, whether a chain reaction will occur, resulting in some of the terrible biological outsider into the Earth. These possibilities are very small, but Liu Hansen, who has returned from the mountain, has made sufficient preparations. He wants to complete the task beautifully. For this operation, his staff made a plan for half a month. It can be said that there are no details and considerations in every aspect. Participate in the line moving, even more than there are soldiers, and some scientists. Liu Han III order was given, 112 and even of 125 officers and men wearing anti-protective clothing, all kinds of handheld weapons, protecting 17 scientists into the aperture. He are in addition equipped with machine guns, rifles and other conventional weapons, also prepared a large number of blades, bolt. After all, no one knows whether the physical laws of another world are the same as those of the Earth. In the unlikely event that a thermal weapon does not work well, a steel knife can be brave. 112 stepped into the aperture and disappeared in everyone's eyes. Liu Han III hearts are inexplicable nervous. After all, before this thing is too weird. Watch the radio and try to contact. Liu Han San said. Report. No response. The subordinate said. Keep trying. Yes. Paul Protection Doctor. Advance team just entering the outsider. The Captain Chen Hao North shouting loudly. In this exploratory operation, these 17 scientists are the protagonists, and these big soldiers are only responsible for protection. To conquer a place, you must first understand the other party. More not to mention, this is the outsider. Among the 17 scientists, there are botanists, medical scientists, chemists, physicists, linguists, etc. Botanists can analyze the composition of the air in other worlds, the composition of the soil, whether the water is drinkable, and so on. The physicist needs to calculate the gravity of the alien world, as well as some physical constants. This is actually very important. Liu Han III Staff Committee considered in great detail, and even fear of the outsider of high intelligent beings. They also sent a linguistics expert. It is said that these people can facial expressions, movements, gestures and African indigenous smooth communication. Shenhebui words were shouted for nothing, at least in the eyes of other soldiers. There was no danger for the time being. Looking ahead, in addition to no side expanse of desert and mountains beyond, no other things. There are trees and grass, but no one thinks these are dangerous. Gravity is about the same as the Earth. The physicist Wang Yuanhao jumped, feeling that the height of the jump was about the same as that of the Earth. So he estimated the gravity of this place. Of course, the particular number also require the body measurement. DADADA. A front continuous shots. Then Wang Yuanhao touched the barrel, said with a smile. Barrel slight fever, indicating that it is normal. Rifling, the bullet has the kinetic energy in the world. Evidently, this place is about the same thing and the Earth. Elder Wang, don't be happy too early, look at the sky. Another scientist Xu Jinqing pointed at the top of his head, and then Wang Yuanhao was dumbfounded. In the sky, there are actually 2 suns. And, didn't your majesty say that this alien world should be many times larger than the Earth? but the gravity is almost the same. Isn't this weird? Xu Jingqing muttered. Although he didn't know why Wu Chengqing asserted that the alien world was huge, but the God Emperor said so, he didn't dare not believe it. Hey, another world. If it is different from the Earth, how would it be called another world? Are there many two suns? Didn't you say that the stars we see at night are all suns? Chen Houbai spit out. Several scientists didn't bother to pay attention to him. The stars on the Earth at night are indeed stars, but they are far away. This concept is completely different from the two suns that are close together. It's real. In buildings in the universe, the double star system is the most common. Our solar system's star system is a single alien. Astronomer Zhao Jin smiled. Report: radio communication can work normally in this world, but it cannot communicate with the Earth. The wire of the cable telegraph broke after entering the alien world. Through news reports with the class situation. Look, not an object across the outsider and the Earth. Xu Jingqing said. Company Captain Chen, can you let your people catch a few live animals back? The biologist watched the botanist digging soil and pulling weeds on the sidelines, envying him. He had to be a study, at least have to find living organisms. He who cannot wait, after all this, is to explore a world of great credit. Once Dower has gained a foothold in this alien world and acquired a lot of resources, their pioneers will inevitably be knighted. Everyone started their own division. The soldiers began to tie camp and explore. The scientists were testing various constants. After that, through news staff through a light gate back to Earth, the report explored outside. A preliminary report gave Ambrose 3 nitrogen content per 65% less than the Earth. 13 is percent oxygen content of 25.5% higher than the Earth. It is enriched like state. In this state, easily enriched protein, DNA, lipid kind of damage. Long term in the other world is prone to aging and hair loss. Liu Han-san was not satisfied with this report, because he could not understand. Moreover, in his opinion, these are all bullshit. Aging and easy to take off hair, in his view, absolutely not a thing. On the battlefield, soldiers must rush even if they know they are dead. Compared to desperate battles on the battlefield, something that is prone to hair loss shouldn't be recorded. There is still 10% unknown gas. This makes Liu Hansen care a little bit. He doesn't like the unknown. He hopes that a clear and complete report will be given to His Majesty. The quantum constant has changed. What is a quantum constant? Liu Han 3, to see the look of ignorant force, can only provoke a further stay in the Antarctic physicists to help explain his sad reminder to find that he cannot read the report. Quantum constant is given Majesty defined, is used to describe a number of quantum size. Cheng Fang's interpretation for a moment, looked at his face senseless forced. Ambrose 3 said helplessly. In simple terms, different quantum constant, indicating that the outsider is not our universe. Net wholesome useless. Liu Han 3 with the explanation. He did not feel the role of point. He only knew that the people who entered were still alive, so the large troops could also enter immediately. 1102 Chapter of Shame. First battle. You can search in Baidu AI made aircraft carrier in the Ming dynasty. Find the latest chapter. Scientists are still doing something very boring in Liu Hansen's opinion, and he is too lazy to take care of it, leaving a portion of soldiers to protect these guys. Ambrose took 3 large forces dispersed to the surrounding, began the exploration of the outsider. It didn't take long. After going north for more than a dozen kilometers, the 112th Company encountered creature in another world, a 4-horned animal with long horns on its head. At first glance, it looks like a rhino, just not too much bigger in size than the rhinoceros. Visual body length reached 5 meters, 3 meters. If you replace the horns with an elephant trunk, this thing is almost like an elephant. Good fellow, fortunately these horns eat grass. Chen Houbai said, if these horns resemble lions and tigers, it would be terrifying. After all, their company has only more than 120 people. And the group of horned monsters has thousands of them. Thousands of 4 or 5 tons of gadgets rushed towards them, even if they had guns in their hands. They had to flee frantically. Call armored department team. So they sent tank regiment come under Chenhao North Make Road. He wanted to catch a few of these bullhorn monsters, on the one hand, to do research for scientists, on the other hand, to send it to Nanjing to confess His Majesty. This kind of stuff can make a lot of money even if it is thrown in the zoo. After all, this is an animal that does not exist on Earth. Not too long, a tank regiment, a total of 92 tanks arrived in the film area. This is too much. I just don't know if his temperament is irritable. Li Yang, head of the armored regiment, vomited. If these bullhorns are as meek as a scalper, then it's easy to handle. But if these bullhorn monsters have irritable temperaments and rush towards them together, there is also a certain degree of danger. Try it. It's not a problem to stand here and watch. Chen Hobei said, quasi-prepared to fight. Subsequently, Li Yang ordered. Li Yang opened tank gun, but the shells fell on the horns. Strange distance, there are tens of meters away. Scientists have measured the gravity of this world before, which is slightly larger than that of the Earth. But this little deviation caused Li Yang to miss. He had to calculate the trajectory of artillery shells' manner, the need for a little correction. Not only before, now they have not this time. Frightened strange horns. 2 words. Do not say to them towards Li Yang rushed over. Although the distance between the two sides was still 2 kilometers, Chen Hobei still felt the shaking. This crow's mouth was really hit by him. These are all grumpy animals. Chen Hobei cursed in his heart. Most of the people in the tank regiment were in the tank, and there was some guarantee for safety. And he had the reconnaissance company. It may be that the unprotected quasi-prepared to fight. Chen Hobei shouted, as a sharp sword force composed of pure Han people. He had never thought of running away. Subshells loaded, machine gun in place. The tanks continued to fire their guns. After several missed shots, they also mastered some rules, and the shells finally fell into the bullhorn group. Of course, this is mainly due to the large number of bullhorns. Artillery shells horns strange group in the explosion. Then, Chen Hobei's almost stared out. A hair 88mm armor missile. It only caused a strange horns burst of panic. Even a no-kill. In a few bombs horns strange though injured, but it does not look fatal. After a wave of bombing, only a dozen of them fell to the ground and could not get up. At this time, the seemingly bulky bullhorns had approached the Huami several hundred meters. That is to say, they call up to 2 guns. You will be able to blame those horns in front of them. Lianglun gun can kill how many? The answer is dozens. The bullhorn group paid the price of dozens of lives, and then rushed in front of the tank. Chen Hobei and the others hurriedly climbed onto the tank, but they dared not stay on the ground again. The same time, they also continued to shoot them. These bullets have a certain degree of damage to the bullhorn, especially when it hits the eyes, nostrils, stomach and other vulnerable parts. It can also direct the blood of the bullhorn. However, if it is hit on the horns or on the back of the cow, the effect is extremely limited. This kind of protection is beyond the reach of any animal on the planet. Boom! There was a loud noise. Yeeta strange horns hit the tank. Almost more than 40 tons of tanks to overturned. Huge hit let sit above the tank. Reconnaissance company of soldiers fell to the ground, then stepped on a mess. Quickly let them into the tank. Squeeze. Li Yang ordered the road. Not only had their tank interior spaces actually very small. Dowa has not paid much attention to the development of tanks in recent years because it has no opponents. He had now equipped with tanks, or 3 years ago, generation of tanks. The soldiers outside the tank suffered, and the soldiers inside the tank also did not feel good. Violent hit them on a variety of iron, on the instrument. I hit a little too Li Yang judgment of the current form. Although bullhorns cannot cause fatal damage to tanks, continuous damage can also cause them to suffer heavy losses. More importantly, who are now unable to blame cause massive destruction of these horns. If the stalemate continues, they may be able to kill a lot of these monsters, but they will also destroy the group because of the large number of these monsters. Subsequently, Li Yang ordered, retreat immediately. Headquarters to report the situation. The tank regiment began to retreat, but the bullhorns chased after them. Head, can't withdraw to the south anymore, that is our camp, the subordinate reminded. If these oxhorn monsters were brought to the camp and killed the scientists, the loss would be incalculable. Turn to the east. Li Yang ordered the road. He had continued to escape for a while, and some tanks have shaken off the chase, but some tanks damaged in a crash. But it has been flooded. Horn's strange group. Damn it. Li yells Yang gas. Fighting a group of beasts with tanks, they were forced to flee in embarrassment. At this moment, he couldn't wait to kill himself with a shot, which was too shameful. Request support. Yi Liang was surrounded by tanks. Sent a distress call sign. Lieutenant Zhao, do your last effort and be loyal to Dao. I will ask your majesty for your credit. Li Yang said. Although he didn't want to give up any of his subordinates, as a commander, he had to make decisions to reduce losses and could not be emotional. Returning to the rescue has no meaning other than putting more tanks in a heavy siege. Obviously, ask the head of the group to help take care of my son. And these animals fight. Die Hualong live. The tanks that were trapped were not only Lieutenant Zhou's one. Those trapped tanks and soldiers had no choice but to give up their lives without hesitation. I remember this battle. Li Yang fist hit the armor. 1103 Chapter Big Solidarity Program. You can search in Baidu AI made aircraft carrier in the Ming Dynasty. Find the latest chapter. After escaping for a few miles, only 6 or 7 heads were still chasing Li Yang behind them. Look at the way this strange horn's endurance also generally like. Try to catch a few alive. After these bullhorns lost their quantitative advantages, the threat dropped drastically. So Li Yang made the decision to capture there. The order was given, and the tank group began to sneak around these bullhorn monsters, continuing to consume their energy. When they do not want to stop chasing, when they leaned to challenge Li Yang. There are even more savage and rude people who directly aim at their limbs and shoot. Some fold Teng down. They finally put 7 horns. Strange to pack up. 1 head too many gun deaths. There are 3 remaining subject to varying degrees of gunshot wounds. There are only 3 heads without any trauma, but the tired one is foaming at the mouth. Beasts are only beasts after all. A soldier sneered. These oxhorn monsters were captured alive, not because human weapons were too powerful, but mainly because they were too low in intelligence and pursued them lonely and deeply. If it were always together and a large force, Li Yang they have to do nothing. Some soldiers burst cheered. But Li Yang is not happy. They suffered heavy losses during this exploration. A total of 8 tanks were lost and 32 tank soldiers were lost. Even worse was the reconnaissance company. Out of more than 120 people, only 40 survived. A field skirmish is loss of hundreds of people. Huajun and the army fighting in other countries. Such casualties have rarely appeared on Earth. And now, their opponents are just a group of beasts, or herbivores. According to Chang knowledge, Li Yang believes predators of this world will certainly be more powerful, or else how to hunt. Leaving a small group continues to monitor the observation of those strange horns, and then she took a large force dragged Li Yang who pray return to the camp. Yuhan 3 have been reported. He waited in the camp. Seeing the deformed tanks hit by the horns, he felt a tingling scalp. Tanks. This is Dao's current weapon with the strongest protection capabilities on land. If even the tank regiment can't hold it, the other infantry regiments will be even more useless. Liu Han 3 realized that want to conquer this outsider, I'm afraid not so easy. We must do long-term planning. At least, the railway from the South Pole to the port must be built to facilitate the movement of materials and personnel. Without railroads, just that part of the journey on the South Pole can be tossing people to death. However, I want ice in Antarctica. Railroads on the floor is not easy. A lot of technical difficulties. Nanjing. 5 months after the advance army set off, Wu Qingqing received a report on the alien world. It says the report, the outsider of the general situation and the Earth are similar for people like living residents. This was as early as Wu Qingqing expected. After all, The system was to let them go to another world to fight. If it is not suitable for human survival, then hit a hammer. It was the report of the bullhorn monster that aroused his interest. It is clear that, after entering the outsider, is not to face the other players. The alien world is so big, the two players should be very far apart from each other. He who must first face the outsider creatures, and these creatures obviously more powerful than the Earth's biological. Not before. As long as the outsider does not appear intelligent beings, it is not a big problem. The blue whale is so big, hasn't the number of whaling ships killed by those whaling ships dropped sharply? In addition to animals, the advance army also found a fruit in another world. It is said that good taste, nutritional content being unknown, a preliminary understanding of the situation outsider, Wu Qingqing began to develop a new plan to enter the outsider. He was originally a quasi-prepare large-scale development outsider, but now he is going to slow down the pace. After all, for the time being, investment and harvest are not directly proportional for the time being. The current can reach and outsiders dealing only tank core, and Dao's current total number of tanks is only 5,000. A field of sudden encounters let Huajun lost 8 tanks. It can be inferred in the event of more plus powerful species, 5,000 tanks cannot afford to consume several times. The alien world is so big, the population of its species will definitely be larger than that on Earth, and it must not be taken lightly. Its now massive raiders outsider, might as well the development of military-industrial complex. Create more powerful tanks, and produce armed helicopters, unmanned aerial vehicles, and missiles. At that time, it will have the advantage of crushing alien creatures. The same time, the number also takes up. Prior to the development of the economy by Dao, military expenditures have been repeatedly reduced, resulting in the development of weapons not keeping up with the speed of economic development. The performance of the tank currently equipped by Dao is approximately equal to the industrial level of the 1930s in the original time and space. However, Dao's current economic development has almost reached the level of the original time and space in the 1950s and 1960s. This is actually normal. Dao is the only one with no rivals, and there is no such urgent need for the update and iteration of weapons and equipment. During the war, everything is for the service of the war, and the speed of weapon development is naturally fast. There are so many things to do. Wu Qingqing feeling something. Not only must the development of military equipment be accelerated, but the economy must also not fall. The future war in another world will inevitably be a protracted war. Without a strong economy to support it, it will undoubtedly lose. Even global unity, cultural unity, and ideological unity cannot be left behind. Once Dao has fallen into the quagmire of a war in another world, it is difficult to guarantee that other countries will not jump out and do things. Therefore, enlarge before the arrival of battle. It is best to put the world's unity, and let the whole earth is only one voice. Unity is strength, and internal fighting is the deadliest. Apart from territorial unity, cultural and ideological unity must be achieved. It is not easy to do this. For this reason, Wu Qingqing decided to give other ethnic groups some sweetness appropriately, to give them some hope, so that they can better integrate into Dao. This sweetness is the promotion channel. Wu Qingqing decided to give the proportion of other ethnic groups a number of official position, as long as one toward Yuob to contribute. You can like Han as high positions. As for the civilian population, as long as a lifetime compliance discipline and law-abiding, support Dao, we can also give them an equal status. Issue is the real meaning of equality on the sense, after of this identity, they and their descendants in welfare, legal aspects can be treated equally. To give them hope is the best way to eliminate their resistance to will. Once you have a rough idea, Wu Qingqing held an enlarged meeting. The Yuob's core leadership, as well as some of the super wealthy, well-known scientists, senior military and so important people are called up to discuss the program together. He needs to eliminate the turmoil in the world, the gap between the rich and the poor, and he needs to take care of the interests of all parties and also take care of economic development. This throne is not so easy to sit on.